coming at you today from the banks of the mighty Mississippi in Mississippi County. We're going to catch up with Ed Dickey, the head tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service, right after this message. Stick around, won't you?
The tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject a zap back in your tree's sap. Research has showed that ice-damaged trees are stressed, and stressed trees lead to insect and disease attacks. Micro tree injection is the answer for your trees. Micro tree injection is a closed system, delivering the exact dose of systemic chemical directly to the sap stream of the tree. Once the problem is identified, the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject vitamins, minerals, or insecticide directly into the sap stream of your trees. This bypasses the roots and provides immediate results. Micro tree injection has been university tested and field proven for over 35 years. After the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service treat your trees, you receive a written 1-year guarantee. We won't treat a tree we don't think we can help. Let the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service put the zap back in your tree's sap.
Daddy phoned to tell us that old tree might have to come down. The one I had the tree house in and chased my wife around. He said a neighbor showed him where it was busting at the trunk. And if the snow got heavy, it could crack down to the stump. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Grandpa said they planted it when he was just 8 years old. His mama kept the clods broke up while his daddy dug the hole. I phoned up a friend of mine that lives in our hometown. He said he knew a tree doctor didn't like to cut trees down. The man went out and checked our tree and bolted it back together. He said it would last a lifetime, no matter what the weather. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Yes, we got to save our family tree.
Let's catch up with Ed Dickey, the head tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service, right now on Tree Doctors.
You know, a lot of people water their trees and they have no idea actually how much they're watering their tree. Well, there's a simple remedy for that. If you can take a 5-gallon bucket, turn your water on full throttle with a hose, and time how long it takes to fill that bucket. Well, you're saying, well, you don't have a 5-gallon bucket. Well, take an empty milk jug. It's 1 gallon. Turn your water on your hose. I suggest you turn it all the way on without the fitting on the end, and see how many seconds it takes to fill that milk jug. And let's just use an example. Let's say it takes 15 seconds to get that gallon of water. That means you're putting 4 gallons a minute. That'd be 240 gallons that you're putting out in an hour. That's just a rough estimate. Everybody's water is different. So if you turn your hydrant on half that much, then you'd be putting out about half that much water if you've got a slow drip. But there's an easy way to gauge how much water you're putting out, and then you know how much. If you let your hose run for 15 minutes, you know roughly how much water you've been giving a tree. So you need to kind of know how much water you are dealing with when you're watering your trees, and that's an easy way to do it. Just put your hose in there, see how long it takes to fill it. If you do have a 5-gallon bucket, that's fine too. Just fill it and see how long it takes. If it takes you a minute and a half or a minute or whatever, everybody's water pressure is different. And the only reason I recommend turning your hose all the way on is because that's the most you're going to get out of your hose. Most people water at a 1 turn or a turn and a half, about half of the thing. Well, you'd cut your amount in half. You'd know how much you're putting out. But you need to know exactly how much you could put out if you needed to. That's a good starting point. I'm here with in Gosnell with Gary Cecil. And Gary, how many years we've been working on this old pecan tree?
I think about 7 years, 7 or 8 years, I believe.
Yes, sir. When we first started, this was a big old opening and about half of the tree, wasn't it? Tell the viewers about what you did after that when we started treating it.
I started measuring the hole as it was closing up, and in 2001 I cut me a little piece of wood, and it would slide. I measured 4 foot up. It would slide inside the opening there, so it's up a good. You look like a couple of inches.
Yeah, a couple of inches there. Sure.
Eventually close up all together.
Yeah, that's what I told Gary. If we, stays with it, he fertilizes it every year too, and you get a great many pecans off his tree, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I get about probably 75 pounds.
Right, and
The big mayhem pecans.
yes, sir. And what Gary did, he had got the old phylloxera gall waltzed the knots on here several years ago and had me treat it. And he had actually thinking about cutting it down at the time, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I was. They'd recommended I cut it down because they afraid it would fall on the house.
And I told Gary with a little care and treatment that we could fix it where he could still enjoy it and have a shade tree and get a few pecans. And it's worked, didn't it?
That's right, it sure has.
Who's these two right here beside you, Gary?
It's my granddaughter Abby and my son Clinton.
All right. We appreciate y'all taking a minute to talk to us about your trees, and maybe we'll come back here when that thing's closed all the way up here in 2 or 3 years.
Oh yeah, I believe it will. Yeah, it's doing pretty good. One of the days it'll be like that.
Yes, sir. That's right. Well, I thank you, Gary.
All right.
Most of the yards out there have somewhere in it, if you got trees, you're going to have roots coming up out of the ground. And have a lot of people asked about what effects to cut those off. Well, anytime you cut roots on a tree, you're going to affect the tree you're cutting it on in some way. Another way to handle that, and it's not near as invasive and it's easy to do, and it's not expensive, you can go to your local home center and get a bag of topsoil. Generally sells for less than $2. You just throw it down there where that root is, rip it open, put some of that out around that root, kind of spread it out so when your lawnmower hits it, it'll go over it. No time at all you're going to be growing grass through that, and you're not going to be hitting that root. If it's a bigger root, taller root, put down more topsoil. If it's a smaller root, it don't take as much. But a bag of this is not but a couple of bucks at the most, and you can cover up several roots with one bag. Or if it's a big old root that's been sticking there a long time and you've been hitting it a whole lot, well, just take your foot, spread that out a little bit. No time at all. If you're in a hurry, you can put you some grass seed, but Mother Nature is wonderful about letting grass come up without having to seed it. You can go right over that with your mower. You're not hitting that root anymore. In just a few weeks, you'll never know you did that. You'll be glad you did. I'm here right outside of Brooklyn with Delbert Hathcote. And Delbert, won't you tell me a little bit about what's going on with these trees when you called me?
Well, I was looking up and I had some round knots on the limbs and also had some leaves that was turning brown on them. And so I just thought, well, I'd call a tree doctor and see what he could do about it.
Yes, sir, and we fixed them up for Delbert. But what I found real interesting about these trees, tell me what you know about them, about the age of them and all that, Delbert.
Well, this one here is approximately 49 years old. And when I built my house here, why, it was in a fence row. And I left it, it was about the size of your arm at that time. And so We built our house here in '63, I believe.
Yes, sir. So you've watched this. This is truly your family tree, isn't it?
Right. It's been here all my life, pretty well.
Yes, sir. And you, for years, you're retired now, but you was in the woodworking business. Is that right?
Right. I was in a cabinet shop, built cabinets since '77.
It's still there. What's the name of it?
Deb's Cabinet Shop, Brooklyn. And my son, he operates it now.
And how long you been retired from that?
About 4 years.
So you've been in woodworking for a long time, haven't you?
A pretty good while. Yeah, yeah. I enjoy working with wood. Still work with wood.
Yes, sir. It's an important job. It sure is. Well, you got another tree here in the yard. We'll move around and we'll talk a little bit about that big oak.
Okay, that rascal, I don't know how old it is. A lot older than I am, I think.
All right, Delbert, we'll run here to this other big oak and say you don't know how old this one is?
No, sir, I don't. It was a big tree when I moved here, so I have no idea. Approximately 100 years old, I'd guess. I don't know.
Oh, I'd say more than that. And Delbert had me treat this. This had a borer problem. And I was tickled he let me do it because it's one of the bigger trees that the camera probably won't show the size of it, but it is an enormously big tree. Biggest one you have here, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is. It's the biggest I have around, biggest I know of around here.
Right. And what kind of wood did you work with in your cabinet shop? I bet you used a lot of oak, didn't you?
Yes, sir, mainly oak. When I first started, I used lots of birch, but it switched over to oak and mainly oak.
Well, there before you quit, I guess you started seeing a lot of the what happens with the borers in that wood that you got, didn't you?
You bet, because it's hard to get good wood anymore. You could get it, buy it, it's a lot more expensive than it used to be, but when you get it in, it's not near as good a material either.
And what effect did them borers have on the wood that you got in?
Well, you just almost had to saw it out and throw it away. You couldn't use it. It'd mess up a board, sure would.
Right, it'd be a lot of holes in it, wouldn't it?
Lot of holes.
Well, Delbert, I appreciate you taking a minute and telling about your trees, and after we get these boogers better and looking good, I'm liable to come by and talk to you again about them.
Well, that'd be great. I'll try to be around here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This is an extremely large pine tree, and it was just totally engulfed with vines up here a few months ago, and I had a man cut these back. They cut them right down here at the bottom, jumped up here about 2 foot. Then after they got it cut, they pried the vines that was cut away from there. Now they can monitor these, and they see it growing up. The tree, they just break it off. Eventually these will dry out where you can more easily pull those off. It'll lose the attachedness. They've done it all the way around the base of the tree, so it's not all green up through there. I watched this after this was done, and it's surprising how long it stays green before it starts dying. But it eventually does. After 2 or 3 months, they go dying back, and they lose their attachedness after that, and you can start pulling them off. But if you let them get too bad, they can actually become a parasite to your tree because they're living off your tree. So that's how to handle your vine problem. Just cut them down here, cut them up here, pry this off, and let them die back naturally.
Ed Dickey's got more tips on how you can take care of your trees coming up after these messages on Tree Doctors.
Hello, I'm Ed Dickey, the tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service. I'm coming to you from inside of a tree. We've been getting inside of trees for 35 years. We get to the root of the problem. Give us a call. We know how to save your trees. We put the chemical where it needs to be, inside your tree, taking care of insect and disease problems. We're often imitated, but never duplicated. We've been doing this 35 years. We know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service. It's not hard to see what killed these trees. It was boreworms. The borer is a hard insect to control, virtually untouched with spraying and other applications. But with systemic injection, when the borer eats the tree, the borer dies. Trees are dying all over, but we've got the cure. We give a 1-year guarantee when we treat your trees for the borers. We've been doing this 35 years and we know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees. It's time now for mailbag. This is when we review some of the emails and letters we get, and I try to answer them here on the air. This one here is from Robert in Jonesboro. I have a poplar tree, roots growing crazy all over my backyard. Have an in-ground pool and roots are about to get in it. What can I do to get rid of them without hurting my other trees? Well, Robert, the easiest way is take common several boxes of common table salt, and wherever you got a little sprout sprouting up, if you'll just circle that with a little mound of salt, that salt will be enough to kill out that root system that's protruding out of the ground. Now, along the wall of your pool, if you'll just pour it right against the concrete there, not on the concrete, right against the concrete and the soil, and let that salt seep down the edges all around your pool where those roots are protruding in, it will gradually kill out those roots. They'll turn and go another way. You might have to do that a couple of times, but you'll be surprised what you can do with that salt if you use it correctly, and you won't hurt your other trees if you're using it sparingly to the point of don't just getting it all over the place, just put it where it needs to be. Hope that helps. This is from Helen in Paragould. I have a tree that died in the backyard from I don't know what. If I plant another tree in the same spot, could the new tree catch what the other one died from? Well, Helen, depends on what the tree died from. But to be safe, if you'll dig down and dig out when you take that tree out and let that ground space it around the hole a little bit. In other words, leave it out of the hole and let it air out and let the ultraviolet rays of the sun hit that for a couple of days. That will help kill any bacteria or fungus that might be in the soil that's harmful to that tree. That's the way you decontaminate ground, by the way. You cook it and to a higher degree, needless to say, but that's how you clean up ground that's been contaminated. So that's what you're more or less doing by letting the sun air it out and the ultraviolet rays kill that. So then after a couple of days, you plant you another tree there and put you some mulch in there, a lot of water, should do all right. This is from Kenny in Mountain View. I have about 20 peach trees, 4 plum and 2 apple. The borers and other bugs plus brown rot keeps me from having much fruit at all. Most are 5 or 6 years old. What would it take to help me? Well, Kenny, the first thing, anytime you got fruit trees, you need knowledge. And the way to get knowledge is you go to your conservation office there close to you and get you a booklet that tells you about the trees that you got and what spray required in your area is suggested and recommended for you to have a lot of fruit. Let's suppose that you're armed with that already and you're still not getting fruit. You need to follow their recommendations because those are set aside because they have tested and proven this works on fruit trees. And the reason why I pushed it is there's a number of sprays that needs to be done on any fruit trees here in Arkansas, whether it's in Missouri or Tennessee, either one, to have fruit. And if you've ever watched our program, you see we've interviewed some people who actually grow those, and they'll tell you how spray is important. So there's no one thing that I can do to help you turn those trees into producing trees. There's a lot you have to do. The first thing I suggest is reading that literature and making sure that you're up to that task of taking care of those. And if you are and still have problems, call me. I'd be glad to visit you and go over with you what other things you can do. But you have to have a starting point, and that would be your starting point. The states are wonderful about printing this literature, and it's free. You're a taxpayer. You're entitled to it. Just request it, and it'll help you with your fruit trees. You'll be glad you did. This one is from Carol in Paragould. When you're over this way, I would like for you to check my ash tree. I have several dead limbs. My work number is, and my home number is. Okay, Carol. What you're going to find on a lot of our ash trees, and it's going to be a bigger problem in the near future, the emerald ash borer is an epidemic proportions up in Indiana already. They're sending out bulletins on that, and it's easing on down this way. The borer already was a problem in our area to start with, but this emerald ash borer it doesn't take any prisoners. It just wipes your tree out. So yeah, I will check your tree for you, but the other people with ash trees, you need to check your own. Watch for little holes in the trunk. piles of sawdust actually around the base, dead limbs popping out through your trees for no reason at all. And you might need to attend to those ash trees. That looks like all the time we have this week for Mailbag. Send your questions to dickeytree.com, or you can mail us to the Tree Doctor at Box 790, Jonesboro, Arkansas 72403. And we'll try to answer it for you on the show.
Let's go back into the field and catch up with the head tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, right now on Tree Doctors.
We get a whole lot of calls about the straight line holes in the trunk of the tree. Well, 99 times out of 100, the straight line holes is from a woodpecker. He's going after a bark beetle or a borer underneath there, insect, irregardless. And he's the good guy. He's trying to help you out. But you can see this tree over the years has just been riddled with the woodpecker peckings, trying to help the people out. So needless to say, if you treat this tree, you'd stop two things. You'd stop all the damage from the woodpecker, and because there wouldn't be no insects to eat to start with, and you'd make the tree do better. So I just wanted to clarify that when you see these straight line holes, woodpecker hears that insect underneath that bark, and he pecks till he gets him, and they do it in a straight line across there. And that's from a woodpecker going after an insect. I'm here on Main Street in Tyronza with Sonny Justice. And Sonny, tell me about this nice pine tree we're standing under.
Well, this was my Christmas tree in 1986. We planted it. It was about 5-6 feet tall. After Christmas, it was already in a bag, you know, and we just bring it out here and plant it. And it's really grown off well. And it's I've got 3 Christmas trees. I lost one, but I've got 3 that was planted up over a Christmas tree.
Well, that's really a family tree to you, because that's not only does you use it during Christmas time, it serves as a yard tree later on. Isn't that neat?
Yeah, my nephews and nieces helped me plant it, and it's a good memory.
Yes, sir. Well, and maybe our viewers take note from that. If you, that's a good way to recycle. You know, you use that Christmas tree and then plant that booger, and you remember what went on that Christmas. Is that right?
I'm glad for it. I'm tickled to death that this tree has done so well.
Yes, sir. We'll help you keep it going well. Thank you, Sonny.
All right. Thank you now.
I'm at the home of Jeff and Donna Sisk in Wynn. It's been about 10 years ago that Jeff had me work on this tree. It's near his pool area, right over the deck, and it had been filled in with concrete about years ago. And the concrete had busted. It had been improperly done. And Jeff had me redo it and treat the tree. And you can see that's been about 10 years ago, and it's still hanging in there. And I actually had to use a different technique than I generally use because of what was already in there. But in a different type of filler that expanded and retracted with the weather. But it's done well, and each year we just kind of put a little camouflage paint on that, and that makes that look a lot better. And got a seating area around the tree, and like I said, it's hanging right over the deck area, and you can see from the face he's got on this tree, he cares about his trees and as well as this area, and we're gonna keep this tree going for him many more years to come. I'm here with David Zielinski right outside Armorel, Arkansas, and David, you're in the landscaping business, is that right?
That's right. I'm in the rental business and landscaping also.
Right, we've known each other a number of years, and David's got me to treat a few trees he's had trouble with, and you've seen a lot of trouble in your trees, haven't you?
Right, seen a lot of problems with scale and borers.
Yes, sir, sure have, and just some pretty plants. What do you do here? Just store these till you need them on your job site?
Yeah, these are just some flowers that I'm going to put on some of my jobs I have contracts with. I put in seasonal color in the spring and the fall, and just hadn't had time to plant them yet.
Right, and the time of year we are right now, it's pretty dry, isn't it?
Sure is. We need some rain.
We sure do, for flowers and trees. We sure do. David, you've got a project here over in Blyville, I think, working on. We're going to follow you over there, and we'll just talk about some trees over there, if you don't mind.
That'll be fine. We got some trees you just treated a couple of days ago. Had some borers.
All right, we'll take the camera and we'll resume over there.
Sounds good.
We moved up here to Blyville at the Wedgwood edition, and David, kind of tell me what's you're in the process of doing right here at this home.
Well, we just got through laying a fescue sod in the front, and we're finishing up in the back. We've planted the flowers and mulch. We do everything as far as maintenance on our contracts. We do everything outside the yard.
Right. Well, you put new sod and whole works right around here, did you?
Right. Yeah, we just laid the sod, and of course we service the sprinkler system. It's got an underground sprinkler system, and we keep that serviced and take care of the trees and all the shrubs and everything.
Right. The water is most important, especially when you group this many plants. And a lot of people ask me about having that many plants around the base of a tree over there like you got there. But when you got a sprinkler system, you can have as many as you want. Isn't that right?
All right. Yeah, they do real well.
And the same way over here, if the camera can show it back in there, those larger boxwoods and stuff, they take a lot of water. But if you got that sprinkler system, it gives it a lot of water.
Right. Because those trees take a lot of water, from the plant, so you got to have a sprinkler system on them just about to keep everything alive.
How long have you been in the landscaping lawn care, David?
I guess I've on and off for about 10 years.
Yeah. And I've treated your trees, I don't know how many years.
I guess you started about 5 or 6 years ago, servicing some of my trees on my rentals that were in real bad shape, and you got them back up, and they're doing fine now.
Right, and I tell people it takes more of a community effort with the person that you're doing it for. The client has to get involved even with what you do, isn't that right?
That's right. People just don't realize that if some of these trees, if you quit servicing them, taking care of them, how fast they can go down.
Right. I mean, even you might have a sprinkler system, but somebody has to set that timer so that thing comes on. Ain't that right?
That's right. And turn it off when we're getting a lot of rain.
That's exactly right. Well, David, I hope we touched on a few things, and we'll stop back here one of these days and catch you on another job, and we'll talk about some other trees.
Sounds good.
You know, the ice storm we had a few years ago really broke up a lot of our trees. And like here, there's a big limb still hanging in this tree, even though it's been a few years since this happened. And I want to remind the people that this is still a hazard to look up around your trees, because that limb's going to let go one day, and you don't want to be underneath that limb when it lets go. So try to address that if you can. If you can't afford to get it out of there, then at least stay away from underneath the bottom of it. And you notice I'm very cautious talking to you about it, because it might want to let go while I'm under here. But the people here have just bought this property, and they're going to have all the dead wood removed, so I'm not worried about it in the future. The trimmers are coming here and get it out of here. But that's something that needs to be addressed, is keep an eye on your trees, and, don't let the tree take you out.
Well, that's all the time we have today, folks. Thank you for joining us. Remember, if you need to get a hold of Ed Dickey, it's pretty simple. You can go to dickeytree.com and email him from there, or call the number below. We'll see you next time on Tree Doctors.